The War Games has been confirmed as the next black and white 60s Doctor Who story to receive the official colorisation treatment. So this is coming hot off the heels of last year's The Daleks in colour, the colorisation of the Daleks, Doctor Who's second ever story, the first to feature the Daleks. Yeah, the War Games, the second Doctor's big finale, big swan song. Of course, the final story of 60s Who as well. It aired in 1969, so not only the final story for the second Doctor, but the final story for the 60s era, and also the final one to be shown in black and white. So quite fitting that this is the story that has been chosen for the next colorisation. I believe we did know there was one in the works. I think like around about a year ago when the Daleks in colour came out, there was talk from Russell or Ben Cook or whoever, saying, oh yeah, we're working on the next one, I think he said it in one of his columns or something, it's in the works, but there was no word as to what that story would be. I think there was a kind of general assumption that it would be a Patrick Troughton one, second Doctor one, because we'd had our first Doctor one, now give us a Troughton one. And yes, quite a fitting choice, like I say, because it now means that, the final black and white story will also be able to be viewed in colour, so you can kind of go from that to Spared from Space to the third Doctor's era. Lots more to get into in the press release as well, but yeah, the War Games, is a story that I have seen once before. It's a notoriously long story, a very, very long story, 10 parts long, so one of Classic Who's longest ever stories. I believe beyond that there's only stuff like The Daleks Master Plan at 12 parts, or then things like Key to Time, Trial of the Time Lord, if you count, season-long stories or serials like that. I remember getting the Regeneration DVD box set that came out in 2013 for my birthday that year, and working my way through all the Classic Who Regeneration stories that I hadn't seen, which was all of them at that point. And I remember actually it took me a year or two after that point to watch the War Games, to kind of get round to it and to actually prepare myself for it, because 10 parts long, it does seem like quite daunting at that point. I remember really enjoying it, I have to say, particularly the final instalment, part 10, which is kind of the kind of epilogue to the whole story. Everything has happened, everything's been wrapped up. The Doctor then returns to Gallifrey, basically, and that's where he stands trial. Having said goodbye to Jamie and Zoe, it's set on Gallifrey. It feels like a very seminal, adventure, because, it's the first time we've gone to Gallifrey. Obviously not called Gallifrey back then, because that only came into it later, the name Gallifrey. But yeah, and the first Time Lords as well, we've seen in the show, barring the meddling monks. So yeah, quite a important, significant story, and that's even before we get on to the regeneration itself, or rather the kind of the transition scene, because we don't actually see John Pertwee's face in the original version. I don't think he'd been cast at the point when the story went out, but in the new version, we will be seeing him, as I'll be getting onto. So, classic Doctor Who story The War Games is to be brought to life in stunning new colorisation to air on BBC4 and iPlayer on the 23rd of December. So 1 month on from this announcement on Doctor Who Day 2024. Quite nice to have it, for Christmas, I suppose, and obviously a couple of days before George of the World goes out, this year's Christmas special, and the proper Doctor Who Christmas special this year. But yeah, nice to have that as well as part of the programming, alongside things like the proms and Unleashed for the special. Nice to have a few different things going on in that week. It's time to step into the excitement of the War Games once again, as one of Doctor Who's most classic tales is to receive a spectacular new colorisation. Originally aired in 1969, the War Games marked the end of an era for the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, following him and his companions Zoe and Jamie as they land in a battlefield that appears to be a World War I military zone, but all is not as it seems. They soon discover that soldiers from different historical periods have been abducted and are being manipulated in a cruel game. As they work to uncover the mystery behind the Warlord and his twisted experiments, the Doctor faces one of his most difficult challenges. For the first time, these original episodes have been meticulously colorised and enhanced, with updated visual effects edited into a new 90-minute feature-length experience to appeal to today's modern audiences. With updated sound and a new score, this newly updated version of the War Games offers both fans and newcomers even more ways to watch this much-loved classic story. In addition, the episode will also feature the second Doctor's never-before-seen regeneration into the third Doctor, John Pertwee, alongside recovered footage not seen since the original broadcast. Russell T Davies said, "From the day I arrived back on Doctor Who, this was the plan. to colorise old stories and bring them back to life. And on Doctor Who Day itself, it's great to announce this, celebrating the show's wonderful heritage with an all-time classic. It looks so vivid and new, and for fans of black and white, the story in its original form will stay on BBC iPlayer, so everybody wins. I actually watched this transmit in 1969 at 6 years old, terrified of the Roman soldiers, fascinated by villains with glinting spectacles, and in awe of the Doctor's brand new origin. Now fans old and new can enjoy it all over again. So a few things to discuss there. They're kind of the usual stuff that always comes up with these colorizations, does it need to be in colour? Why are they colorizing it? There are certain people, certain fans that will go, we don't need this. And like Russell says there in his quote in the press release, it is just like an alternative version of this story. The original one is still there, still on iPlayer, still on your shelf, on the DVD or whatever. It'll still be on the collection box set whenever that comes out, so that is not going anywhere. This is just a new version of the story, trying something different to try and see, if this version works better for modern audiences, seeing it in colour, seeing it cut down as well, it's always a point of contention again with these things, and with a story as long as the War Games, on both sides of the kind of the debates here, there are people saying, oh great, it's fantastic we've got a cut down version of this because it is quite a slog to get through, putting it plainly. I think it is 240 odd minutes long or 250 minutes long, so quite a contrast there between the existing version, the original version, the actual version, and this new version at 90 minutes, which is slightly longer than the Daleks in colour last year. That was 75 minutes, so a bit of a longer runtime here they've been given to make this work, because it's no mean feat to cut down a story of that length. It'll be very interesting to see what has been cut, what remains. I imagine it'll just be a lot of stuff from the middle sections, really. I believe that was the same case with the Daleks in colour last year. You've got to have quite a lot of that stuff from the trial, from part 10 in there, because of how important that is to the story and the Second Doctor's era and to the whole show. And some intriguing mention as well, both of the Second Doctor's regeneration scene being kind of extended and revised and reimagined to include John Pertwee, who, like I say, wasn't there, he's not there in the original. It was very much kind of an open-ended thing where the Second Doctor's head is just there, like spinning off into the distance, and that is how the story ends and his era ends. And then we pick up with John Pertwee literally like stumbling out of the TARDIS in Spearhead from space. So, to this day, we've never seen that regeneration, and now we're going to get like a kind of canon version of that, which is interesting and exciting, and again something that kind of loyalists I think would probably go, oh yeah, do we need that, or it's not really canon. But I don't know, it's nice to have that, I think, and it's kind of a selling point I think for this story and a reason to have this as a colorised one. And separate to that, we have this newly recovered footage never seen before or never seen since 1969. Not entirely sure what that entails or what it is, I'll be honest. Whether it's something that we have seen before or that's never been seen before, but again, very exciting. It's a selling point. It's a reason to tune into this version. So yes, overall, great to have confirmation of the next colorised Doctor Who story and to have it as part of the show's Christmas programming and the BBC's Christmas programming this year. Great to have it there as kind of a piece at the heart of the Doctor Who BBC Christmas schedule. The War Games, great choice. Great story, very long story. It'll be interesting to see how that's been cut down here and how it's been colorised. I'm sure the whole kind of colorisation aspect of it will be great because there's a great team of people working on this. I believe even more people than working on the Daleks last year. So yeah, we're in safe hands there. And obviously things like the new score to look forward to as well, probably things like new effects, the regeneration sequence, obviously, the restored footage. I guess there'll probably be other stuff as well, like little clips inserted in, little montages, things like that we had in the Daleks last year. But what are your thoughts on this news, on the War Games being cut down and colorised? Are you excited for this or not? Are you someone who has seen the War Games before, maybe not even on the original broadcast? Or are you someone who's never seen it before and is excited to dive in? Whatever the case, please make your thoughts known down in the comments below, but otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.